Have you ever heard silence so loud, it echoes? Before we begin, if stories like this touch your heart, please like the video, subscribe for more, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're listening from. It means a lot to us. It was October. Always October when the world feels thin, like old paper. Late afternoon, the kind where the light slants gold but holds no warmth. Ben stood in the kitchen of his new, too-quiet apartment, staring at a single mug in the sink. The radiator hissed, a lonely, rhythmic complaint against the chill seeping through the old window frames. Outside, dry leaves scraped the pavement like whispered secrets. Inside, only the hollow thump of his own heartbeat. Too loud. In the emptiness. He'd been here 2 weeks. 2 weeks since the moving van left. 2 weeks since the divorce papers were signed. 2 weeks since the life he knew simply stopped. The silence wasn't just the absence of Sarah's laughter or the clatter of their daughter Lily's toys. It was the absence of himself. Ben, the music teacher, whose hands hadn't touched the piano in the corner since the day Sarah said she was leaving. The sheet music sat gathering dust, accusing him. He felt untethered, adrift in the echoing rooms of this unfamiliar place. A stranger in his own skin, in his own life. The grief wasn't sharp anymore. It was a dull, heavy stone settled deep in his chest. That's when he heard it. Not a meow. Not a cry. A soft scrape. From behind the ancient, groaning refrigerator. Ben froze, mug halfway to the drying rack. He listened. Only the radiator's sigh. He almost dismissed it, a settling of the old building, a trick of the wind rattling the loose pane. But then, it came again. A faint rustle, like dry leaves, but inside. Deliberate. He knelt, slowly, the cold linoleum biting through his jeans. He peered into the narrow, dusty canyon between the appliance and the wall. Darkness. Fuzz. And then 2 points of reflected light, low to the ground. Unblinking. Watching him. He didn't move. Didn't breathe. Slowly, he reached a hand towards the gloom, open, unthreatening. "Hey there," he murmured, his voice rough from disuse, sounding alien in the quiet. "You okay back there?" No sound, just the watchful eyes. He retreated, went to the cupboard, found a saucer, poured a little milk, the sound unnaturally loud. He slid it carefully, slowly, across the floor, stopping just at the edge of the refrigerator's shadow. Then he backed away, sat cross-legged on the floor a few feet back, and waited. Minutes ticked by, marked only by the radiator's hiss and the frantic drumming in his own ears. Just as he was about to give up, convinced it was a mouse, or his loneliness conjuring phantoms, a shape detached itself from the darkness. A cat. Painfully thin. For the color of wood ash, streaked with dirt. Not fluffy, but ragged, like worn velvet. One ear had a distinct notch, a missing piece, a story written in scar tissue. She moved with a liquid slowness, a ghost emerging from the wall. Not feral, but profoundly cautious. Every muscle tense, ready to vanish. She approached the saucer, head low, eyes never leaving Ben. She sniffed the milk, then, with surprising delicacy, began to lap. Tiny, precise movements. The sound was absurdly loud, the only sound in Ben's world besides his own breathing. He studied her, the way her ribs showed beneath the matted fur, the tremor in her thin legs, the absolute stillness in her wide, pale green eyes. Eyes that held no warmth, only a deep, ancient wariness. She looked lost, like something the wind had blown in and forgotten. She finished the milk, licked the saucer clean with a raspy tongue, then retreated back towards the refrigerator, but didn't vanish completely. She sat just at the edge of the shadow, watching him, assessing, silent. Ben felt a pang, unexpected, sharp. Not just pity, recognition. He saw his own isolation mirrored in her stillness, his own guarded heart in her watchful eyes. He saw the dust on the piano, the untouched sheets, the hollow ache of his own days, reflected in this fragile, filthy creature hiding behind his fridge. He didn't know her story, but he knew the shape of the emptiness she carried. It felt familiar. "Okay," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "Okay." He didn't try to touch her, didn't move closer. He just sat there on the cold kitchen floor, in the fading October light, sharing the silence with the ash-gray cat. The radiator hissed its lonely song. The leaves scratched outside. And in Ben's chest, the heavy stone shifted, just a fraction. Not lifted, but acknowledged. He didn't know her name, didn't know where she came from, or why she chose his cold, silent kitchen. But in that moment, sitting on the linoleum, facing the shadow where she watched, Ben felt something he hadn't felt since Sarah drove away with Lily waving tearfully from the back seat. He felt less alone. A quiet shift in the echoing cavern of his heart. Light, fragile, beginning. "Stay," he breathed, the word barely a sigh, lost in the radiator's steam. Her green eyes, unblinking, held his gaze. And for a heartbeat, the silence didn't echo quite so loud. The ash-gray cat didn't stay that first night. When Ben finally rose from the cold floor, stiff and aching, her shadow had melted back behind the refrigerator. He left the saucer, refilled it with fresh milk before bed, and woke to find it licked clean again, the faintest smudge of dusty paw prints leading back into the darkness. It became their fragile ritual. Every morning, the empty saucer. Every evening, fresh milk slid across the linoleum. They sitting, waiting, breathing. The cat emerging, precise, consuming the offering, then retreating to her shadowed sanctuary. No sound, just the rhythmic hiss of the radiator, the scrape of her tongue, the shared weight of existence in that dim kitchen corner. He started talking to her. Softly. Nonsense, mostly. "Cold out there today, huh?" he'd murmur, watching the sleet streak the window. "Bet you're glad to be behind the fridge." Or, "That radiator sounds like it's singing off-key." He talked about the grocery list, the leaky faucet, the way the light hit the dust motes in the late afternoon. He never mentioned Sarah. Never mentioned Lily. Never mentioned the piano, gathering dust like a tombstone. His voice, rusty at first, began to find its timbre again, filling the silence not with music, but with the low hum of human presence. It wasn't for her, he told himself. It was just filling the void. But then, one gray Tuesday, something shifted. He slid the milk saucer as usual, sat down, began his usual quiet monologue about the price of eggs. The cat emerged, drank, but instead of immediately vanishing, she paused, licked a delicate paw, and then, slowly, deliberately, she turned her head, not towards the shadow, towards him. Her pale green eyes, wide and unblinking, met his. For 3, maybe 4, full seconds. It felt like an eternity, a silent acknowledgement, a tiny crack in the wall of her wariness. Then, she was gone. But the imprint of that gaze, direct, assessing, yet somehow less hostile, lingered in the cool air. Ben sat frozen, the price of eggs forgotten. A warmth, unfamiliar and startling, bloomed low in his chest. It wasn't joy. Not yet. It was connection. Faint, but undeniable. He named her then, in his head, for her color and for the quiet ember of something just beginning to glow. The next evening, he didn't just bring milk. He brought a small bowl of wet food, tuna flavor. The pungent smell filled the kitchen, sharp and foreign. He slid both offerings across the floor. Ash emerged, sniffed the milk, then cautiously approached the new dish. She recoiled slightly at the strong scent, circled it with infinite care, took a tiny lick. Her eyes widened, pupils dilating. Another lick. Then, she buried her face in the bowl, eating with a quiet intensity he hadn't seen before. The sound was different, softer, more contented than the lapping of milk. When she finished, she cleaned her whiskers meticulously, then sat, not retreating immediately. She looked fuller, less like a ghost, more like a creature inhabiting her own fragile body. Ben felt a ridiculous surge of pride. "Good, huh?" he whispered. Ash blinked. Slowly, deliberately. A cat's kiss. Ben's breath caught. He'd read about that, the slow blink being a sign of trust, of affection even. He hesitated, then tentatively blinked back. Slow, deliberate. Ash watched him. Didn't blink again, but didn't look away. Didn't tense. Just thought. The radiator hissed its approval. He started leaving the saucer and bowl out longer. Ash began lingering in the open kitchen for minutes after eating, sitting upright, alert, but less poised for flight. She'd groom herself, a meticulous ritual, licking the ragged gray fur on her flank, smoothing the notch on her ear with a damp paw. Ben noticed other details. A faint white patch on her chest, like a tiny star. The way the pads of her paws were pale pink, surprisingly soft-looking beneath the dust. The delicate tremor in her whiskers as she sniffed the air. He noticed how thin she still was, how her spine felt too prominent when she arched slightly during grooming. He saw the weariness beneath the wariness, a deep exhaustion that resonated with his own. One afternoon, driven by a quiet impulse, Ben didn't sit on the floor. He pulled a chair from the small kitchen table, placed it a few feet from Ash's usual spot, and sat. Higher up, different. He held his breath. Ash rose, her green eyes locking onto him, wide with sudden alarm. Her body tensed, ready to bolt. Ben stayed perfectly still. Didn't speak. Just breathed slowly, evenly, letting his posture slump, non-threatening. He looked down, not directly at her, focusing instead on a chip in the linoleum. Seconds stretched. He heard the faintest shift of her weight. The pause. Then, incredibly, she resumed grooming. Slowly, cautiously, but she resumed. She didn't flee. She stayed. Ben felt a lump form in his throat. It felt like acceptance. A fragile bridge crossed. He began sharing more than just small talk. Sitting in the chair, looking out the window at the skeletal trees, he'd speak in a low, steady murmur. Lily loved the snow, he found himself saying one icy afternoon. The words surprised him, tumbling out before he could stop them. She'd press her face to the glass, leaving little nose prints, begging to go build a snowman before breakfast. His voice cracked. He hadn't spoken Lily's name aloud in weeks. The silence that followed was thick, heavy. He didn't dare look at Ash. He just stared at the swirling flakes outside, feeling the familiar ache swell, sharp and fresh. Then, a soft sound. A tiny thump. He looked down. Ash had moved. Not closer to him, but out from the direct line of sight behind the fridge. She was sitting near the table leg, her back to him, but her head was tilted, one ear swiveled slightly in his direction. Listening. Not judging. Just present. a silent witness to his grief. He didn't cry, but the tightness in his chest eased, just a fraction, released by the simple act of speaking the memory and knowing, somehow, he wasn't entirely alone with it. Days turned into a week, then two. Ash's routine expanded. She'd appear not just for food, but sometimes mid-afternoon, when the sun slanted in weakly. She'd find a patch of light on the worn rug in the living room, just visible from the kitchen doorway, and curl into a tight, dusty circle, sleeping. Ben would tiptoe past, holding his breath, amazed by the simple trust of her vulnerability. He started buying proper cat food, a scratching post she ignored, a soft bed she avoided. He learned her subtle language. The flick of her tail when the radiator clanged too loudly. The way she'd freeze, flat, if he moved too suddenly. The soft, almost inaudible chirp she'd make when she first saw the food bowl appear. He learned the contours of her silence, the texture of her presence. The piano remained untouched, a silent monument in the corner of the living room. Ben would pass it, feeling its pull, the weight of all the unsung melodies, the unplayed lullabies for Lily. It felt like failure, like a part of himself locked away. One evening, restless, the silence pressing in heavier than usual, he drifted towards it. Not to play, just to touch. He ran a finger along the closed fallboard, tracing the line of dust. Ash, who had been dozing in her patch of sun, lifted her head. Watched him. He didn't look at her. He lifted the fallboard. The ivory keys gleamed faintly in the twilight, a stark contrast to the dust-covered wood. He hovered a hand over them, feeling the familiar curve, the cool smoothness. He pressed a single key. Middle C. The note hung in the air, pure, resonant, shattering the apartment's quiet like glass. It felt shockingly loud. Ben flinched, instantly guilty for disturbing the fragile peace. He looked towards Ash, expecting her to have bolted back to the kitchen shadows. But she hadn't moved. She was sitting upright now, fully alert, her green eyes fixed not on him, but on the piano. Her ears were pricked forward, swiveling slightly, capturing the dying vibration of the note. Her head tilted, just a fraction, to one side. Not fear, not alarm. Curiosity. Intense, focused curiosity. As if she were listening, truly listening, to the silence left behind by that single, pure sound. Ben stared at her. The echo of the note faded into the radiator's hiss. Ash remained still, her gaze locked on the piano, her whole body poised, attentive, waiting. The dust motes danced in the fading light. The heavy stone in Ben's chest, the grief and the guilt, felt suddenly less like a stone and more like a held breath. He looked at the piano, then back at Ash, sitting there in the gloom, her ragged fur haloed by the weak light, her eyes reflecting the polished wood. She blinked, slowly, deliberately, her gaze shifting from the piano to meet his. A question hung in the air, unspoken. A fragile thread spun from a single note, connecting the silent man, the dusty piano, and the watchful ash-gray cat. The radiator sighed, a long, slow, familiar sound. And Ben, for the first time in months, felt something stir inside him. Not music, not yet, but the faintest, quietest echo of its possibility. The single note became two, then three. Tentative scales, fingers stumbling over familiar patterns, dust motes dancing in the beam of light falling across the keys. Ben didn't play songs. Not yet. He played fragments. Memories of scales Lily used to bang out with gleeful inaccuracy. The opening bars of Beethoven's Für Elise. Sarah's favorite. He'd stop abruptly, the silence rushing back in, heavier than before. He'd glance towards the patch of rug where Ash usually appeared when the piano lid was open. She always came. Not immediately, but drawn by the vibrations in the air, the disturbance of the quiet she'd claimed. She'd emerge from the kitchen shadows, or uncurl from her sunspot, and sit a careful distance away. Not on the rug near him, but often near the doorway, or beside the cold radiator. Her posture was always the same, upright, alert, utterly still. Her pale green eyes fixed, not on his hands, but on the piano itself, as if watching the sound emerge from the wood. Her ears, with the distinctive notch on one side, would twitch minutely with each note, tracking the pitch. It wasn't the relaxed posture of a cat enjoying music. It was intense, almost studious, as if she were deciphering a code. Ben found himself playing for her, testing notes, watching her reaction. A high C, her ears flattened slightly. A deep, resonant G, her head tilted a fraction. He'd play a short sequence, stop. Ash would blink, slowly, then sometimes shift her weight, or give a tiny, almost imperceptible flick of her ragged tail. He started calling these his Ash etudes, little phrases crafted to see if he could elicit a response. It was a fragile, silent dialogue, built on vibrations and stillness. Then came the humming. It happened late one afternoon. The weak November sun was fading, painting the room in long, cold shadows. Ben was picking out a simple, melancholic sequence, notes from an old folk song his own grandmother used to sing. Low, repetitive, almost a lament. He was lost in the melancholy, the ache of Lily's absence sharp as the fading light, when he heard it. A sound, not from the piano, not from the radiator, not from Ash's throat in the usual sense. It was a vibration, a low, resonant humming, barely audible, felt as much as heard, a deep thrumming in the air. It seemed to emanate from Ash herself, though her mouth was closed. She was sitting near the radiator, her body utterly still, her eyes fixed on the piano as Ben's fingers moved. The humming matched the pitch of the note he was holding, a low D. It wasn't a purr. Purrs were rough, rhythmic, constant. This was pure, sustained, a single note held with impossible steadiness. As soon as Ben lifted his finger, the humming stopped. Abruptly, silence crashed back in. Ben froze. Had he imagined it? The radiator clanked, a harsh, metallic counterpoint. He looked at Ash. She blinked, slowly, her gaze shifting from the piano keys to meet his. Her expression, if a cat could have one, was unreadable. Alert. Utterly normal. Had it been the radiator? A resonance in the old pipes? He played the low D again, holding it, straining to hear. Nothing. Just the note, then the silence. He tried a different note, then E. Still nothing. Disappointment, sharp and irrational, pricked at him. Maybe it had been his imagination, wishful thinking conjured from loneliness and dust. He sighed, let his hands fall into his lap. The apartment felt suddenly colder, emptier. He stared at the silent keys. Failure. He couldn't hold on to music, couldn't hold on to his family, couldn't even hold onto a phantom sound from a stray cat. The heavy stone in his chest felt leaden. He pushed the piano bench back, the scrape loud in the quiet, and stood. He needed air. Needed to escape the crushing weight of the silent apartment, the silent piano, the silently watching cat. He grabbed his coat, not looking at Ash. As he reached the door, he heard it again. Lower this time. Softer, but undeniably there. He whirled around. Ash hadn't moved. She sat near the radiator, her body still facing the piano, but her head was turned, looking directly at him. Her mouth was closed. Her chest didn't visibly vibrate like a purring cat. Yet the sound, that impossible resonant humming, hung in the air, fading slowly, like the last breath of a bell. It wasn't loud, but in the stillness, it was seismic. Ben stood rooted to the spot, coat half on. His heart hammered against his ribs. It wasn't the radiator. It wasn't his imagination. Ash, the ash-gray cat with the notched ear, had hummed a note back at him. Not a meow. Not a cry. A musical tone. Intentional. He didn't leave. He slowly took off his coat, draped it over a chair. Walked back to the piano, his legs unsteady. Ash watched him, her green eyes luminous in the gloom. He sat, took a shaky breath, played the low F again, held it, staring at her, waiting. 5 seconds. To nothing. Just the note and her steady gaze. He released the key. Silence. Then, softly, like a sigh-given sound, it came again from her direction. The same low F, matching his note perfectly. A response. An echo. A conversation. Ben felt tears prick his eyes. Not sadness. Not quite joy. Profound, bewildering awe. He played AC, silence from Ash. He played the F again. The hum returned. He tried AG. Nothing. Back to It was specific. Intentional. She only responded to that one note. The low F. But what did it mean to her? Was it a fluke? Some strange physical reaction? He played the F again, longer. Ash held the hum, matching the duration almost perfectly, then stopped when he did. Her eyes never left his. There was no triumph there. No particular emotion he could name. Just presence. Focus. As if this exchange, this shared resonance, was the most natural thing in the world. He spent the next hour in a daze, experimenting, playing the F, listening for her hum. Sometimes she responded immediately, sometimes after a pause, sometimes not at all. But when she did, it was always that pure, resonant low F. He tried singing it himself, a soft fa. Ash watched him, head tilted, but didn't hum back. It only seemed to happen in response to the piano's specific vibration and only to that one note. A mystery. A beautiful, impossible mystery unfolding in his cold, grieving living room. The radiator, usually a background annoyance, suddenly became an antagonist. On nights when the building's heat kicked in fiercely, its clanging and hissing drowned out any chance of hearing Ash's quiet hum. Ben found himself waiting impatiently for the pauses between its groans, leaning closer to Ash, willing her to repeat the miracle. He'd play the low F during a lull, hold his breath, and sometimes, blessedly, the hum would vibrate through the air, a secret shared beneath the radiator's noisy complaints. He became obsessed. He researched online late into the night. Cat humming? Musical cat? Cat vocalizations. He found stories of cats mimicking sounds, sirens, phones, even human speech. But sustained, pure tone humming in response to a specific piano note? Nothing. It felt unique, precious, a fragile, inexplicable gift. He stopped playing fragments. He started playing simple melodies, songs that featured the low F prominently, telling maybe she'd join in. She never did. She only offered her single resonant note, like a grounding bell, whenever he played it alone. He started talking to her differently, less about the leaky faucet, more about the music. Why if Ash, he'd murmur one evening after she'd hummed back. He'd finished playing, the last notes fading. She sat near the radiator, washing a paw with meticulous care. What does it mean? Where did you learn that? She paused her grooming, looked at him, blinked slowly. No answers. Only the steady regard, the quiet mystery in her green eyes. He found himself playing the low F more often. Not just to elicit her response, but because it felt like a connection. A lifeline thrown across the chasm of his grief. When he played it, and she hummed back, the crushing weight of Lily's absence, the sting of Sarah's departure, the guilt over the silent piano, it all receded. Just for a moment. Replaced by pure wonder. By the sheer, impossible beauty of this connection with a creature who couldn't do this. But the obsession had a shadow. Was it real? Or was his loneliness, his desperate need for connection, twisting ordinary sounds into miracles? He tried to record it one night. Set his phone on the piano, angled towards Ash. Played the low F. He saw her body tense slightly, saw her focus intensify, but no hum came. He tried again. Nothing. She just watched the phone, her tail giving a single sharp flick. Distrust? Awareness of the device? He put the phone away, ashamed of his need for proof. The next time he played without it, the hum returned. Soft, clear but real. But the seed was planted. Was it only real when he wasn't trying to capture it? When he simply believed? Then, the radiator changed its tune. Literally. One freezing night, a deeper cold snap gripping the city, the old system struggled. A new sound emerged, a rhythmic, metallic clang, 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 deep and resonant, occurring every few minutes. Like a slow, dissonant bell. Ben was trying to sleep, the sound jarring through the walls. He gave up, went to the living room. Ash was there, not near the radiator, but sitting bolt upright in the center of the rug, her fur slightly fluffed. Her eyes, wide and unblinking, were fixed on the wall where the radiator pipes entered the room. Her body was rigid, tense. Not her usual alert stillness. This was alarm. The deep clang sounded again. Ash flinched visibly. A low sound, not her hum, but a faint growl rumbled in her chest. Ben watched, puzzled. "It's just the pipes, Ash," he murmured. "Old building." She didn't look at him. Her focus was absolute, locked onto the source of the sound. Another clang. Another flinch. The growl deepened. He played the low F on the piano, trying to distract her, to bring back their familiar connection. She didn't even glance at the keys. Her entire being was consumed by the rhythmic, invasive clanging. Ben felt a prickle of unease. It was just the radiator, but her reaction was visceral, primal. Fear? Recognition? He didn't know. He sat beside her on the rug, not touching, just sharing the space. The clang came again, harsher this time. Ash didn't just flinch. She hissed. A short, sharp expulsion of air, fangs bared for an instant. Then she was up, a gray streak, vanishing into the kitchen shadows. Gone. Ben sat alone on the rug, the dissonant clanging of the radiator filling the silence she'd left behind. The low F, their shared note, felt very far away. The warmth of their musical connection had been fractured, replaced by a cold draft of tension. He looked at the wall, at the pipes rattling within it. What was it about that sound? That specific, deep clang? It wasn't just noise to her. It was something else. A signal. A warning. A memory? The humming had been a miracle. This felt like the first crack in the fragile world they'd built. A world held together by shared silence and a single, resonant note. Now, a different sound had intruded. Deep, jarring, and filled with a meaning Ben couldn't decipher, but Ash clearly understood. And it terrified her. The mystery deepened, twisting away from wonder, toward something shadowed and unsettling. The radiator clanged again, a slow, ominous beat in the cold, dark apartment. Ben shivered, not from the chill in the air, but from the sudden chill in his heart. What else was hiding in the walls? The deep, resonant clang wasn't constant. It came in unpredictable bursts, sometimes minutes apart, sometimes clustered like angry hammer blows. And every time, Ash reacted. Not just a flinch now, but a full-body recoil. Her ears flattened, pupils dilated to black saucers, a low, continuous growl vibrating deep in her chest. She stopped lingering after meals. Stopped appearing for Ben's tentative piano sessions. She retreated entirely, not just behind the refrigerator, but deeper into the darkest corner of the narrow space, a trembling shadow in the gloom. The shared silences, the quiet companionship evaporated. The apartment felt invaded, not by a person, but by a sound. A sound that carried terror for the small ash-gray cat who had only just begun to trust. Ben tried everything. He draped blankets over the radiator to muffle the noise, stuffed towels around the pipes where they entered the wall, earning disapproving hisses from the steam valves. He played the low-if over and over till the desperate siren call, hoping to lure her back, to anchor her in their familiar resonance. Silence answered from the kitchen shadows. Only the oppressive clang and the frantic rustle of Ash retreating further. The frustration gnawed at him, sharp and acidic. He felt helpless, watching her regress, watching the tiny spark of connection they'd nurtured flicker and dim under this relentless assault. His own grief, the heavy stone he'd momentarily forgotten while sharing notes with her, settled back with crushing weight. He felt the silence of the piano, the echo of Lily's laughter, Sarah's absence, all amplified by Ash's fear. It wasn't just her isolation anymore, it was theirs multiplied. The radiator's clang felt like a physical manifestation of everything that had gone wrong, a discordant beat in the wreckage of his life. Then, one frigid night, the clanging reached a fever pitch. It wasn't rhythmic anymore. It was chaotic, a cacophony of deep booms and metallic shrieks, as if the building's ancient bones were protesting the cold. Ben paced the living room, unable to sleep, unable to think. From the kitchen, a new sound pierced the din. Not a hiss, not a growl. A sound he'd never heard from Ash before. A high-pitched, desperate, almost keening yowl. It was pure distress, raw and ragged. It cut through the radiator's roar, straight to Ben's core. He rushed to the kitchen doorway. Ash wasn't cowering behind the fridge. She was at the wall adjacent to the radiator pipes. She was standing on her hind legs, her thin body stretched taut, her front paws frantically desperate scratching at the old plaster. Not the idle scratching of a cat at a post. This was frenzied, determined. Her claws scraped and tore at the faded yellow wallpaper, sending puffs of dust into the air. Her yowl rose again, a sound of profound anguish, mingled with something else, a frantic urgency that froze Ben's blood. She wasn't just scared. She was trying to get through. Ash, no. Ben moved towards her, his voice thick with alarm. She didn't stop, didn't even glance at him. Her focus was absolute, consumed by the wall. Her claws dug deeper, tearing strips of paper, gouging into the brittle plaster beneath. The radiator chose that moment to unleash another thunderous clang boom. Ash recoiled, shrieked, then lunged back at the wall with renewed ferocity, her yowl dissolving into a guttural, choking sound. Plaster dust coated her ragged fur, making her look ghostly, desperate. Something broke inside Ben. Not anger, not frustration. A dam holding back months of helplessness, grief, and a fierce, protective love for this fragile, terrified creature who had somehow become his anchor in the storm. He couldn't fix the radiator. He couldn't bring back Lily. He couldn't mend things with Sarah. But this wall, this terror-consuming ash, he could do something about this. The helplessness crystallized into a single, burning point of action. He didn't try to grab her. He turned, strode into the small hallway closet, rummaged past coats and boxes. His hands closed around the heavy, rusted pry bar he'd used months ago to open a stubborn crate during the move. It felt cold, solid, purposeful in his grip. He walked back into the kitchen, his heart pounding a wild rhythm against his ribs. Ash was still scratching, weaker now, her sides heaving. Plaster dust streaked her face like war paint. She looked up as he approached, her green eyes wide, filled with a wild, exhausted fear. But she didn't flee. She just watched him, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Ben knelt beside her, not touching, but close. He looked at the wall, at the frantic marks she'd made, at the point where the radiator pipes disappeared into the plaster. "Okay, Ash," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "Show me." He positioned the flat end of the pry bar against the wall, right where her claws had been tearing near the baseboard, away from the pipes themselves. He took a deep breath, braced his feet, and pushed. The old plaster resisted, then cracked with a dry, splintering sound. A chunk fell away, revealing the rough wooden lath beneath and a dark cavity beyond. Ash flinched at the noise, but didn't retreat. She crouched low, her eyes fixed on the hole, her whole body trembling. Ben worked carefully, methodically. He levered another piece, then another. The hole widened. Dust filled the air, gritty in his throat, catching in the weak kitchen light. He could feel Ash's tension, a live wire beside him. The radiator clanged again, a distant thud now, muffled by the hole he'd made. Ash flinched, but didn't yowl. She just stared into the darkness. He pulled away a larger section of plaster and laughed. The cavity behind wasn't empty. Wedged deep into the space between the studs, pushed far back, was a small object. Not a pipe, not wiring. Something wrapped in faded, oil-stained cloth. Ben reached in, his fingers brushing cold plaster, rough wood, and then the coarse fabric. He carefully, gently pulled it free. It was small, rectangular, solid, heavier than it looked. He carried it away from the dusty hole, over to the clearer space near the kitchen table. Ash followed, silent now, her eyes never leaving the bundle. Ben knelt again, placed the cloth-wrapped object on the floor between them. The radiator was silent for a moment, holding its breath. The only sounds were Ash's rapid, shallow panting and Ben's own thudding heartbeat. With trembling fingers, dust-covered and slightly scratched, Ben began to unwrap the layers of coarse, stained fabric. They were stiff with age, smelling of dust, mildew, and something faintly metallic. Layer after layer peeled away, revealing not treasure, but something utterly mundane, yet charged with an inexplicable weight of time and secrecy. It was a small, plain wooden box. Unvarnished pine, darkened with age and grime. No latch, no markings. Just a simple, tightly fitted lid. Ben glanced at Ash, She sat frozen, inches away, her green eyes fixed on the box, her trembling momentarily stilled. Her entire being radiated a profound, almost painful, intensity. Not fear now. Something else. Recognition? Longing? An unbearable focus. Ben's hands shook as he lifted the lid. It came away stiffly. Inside, nestled in more faded cloth, lay two things. The first was a small, tarnished brass bell. The kind that might have hung on a collar long ago. It was dented, silent. The second was a photograph. Ben lifted it out carefully. An old Polaroid, the colors faded to muted blues and yellows, the edges curled. He wiped a layer of dust from its surface with his thumb, his breath catching. The photo showed a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, sitting cross-legged on a floral-patterned carpet, beaming at the camera with a gap-toothed smile. Her hair was a wild mop of dark curls. In her lap, held tightly in her small arms, was a cat. A small cat, its fur a soft, smoky gray. One ear, even in the faded picture, showed a distinct, familiar notch. The cat wasn't looking at the camera. It was looking up at the little girl's face, its green eyes, unmistakably Ash's eyes, filled with a quiet, absolute adoration. Ben stared. Time stopped. The radiator, the dust, the cold apartment, all faded into a muffled hum. He knew. He knew with a certainty that slammed into his chest, stealing his breath. The low-f, the humming, the terror of the deep clang, perhaps echoing the sound of a slammed door long ago, or a heavy object falling. The frantic scratching at the wall, where something precious, a memory, a scent, to life, had been sealed away. His Ash, the ash-gray ghost behind his fridge, had once been this. Beloved. She had belonged to this bright-eyed little girl. And then, something had happened. Something that sealed this box, sealed this memory, behind a wall. Something that left her alone, terrified of deep, resonant sounds, carrying a single, pure note inside her. Perhaps a note the little girl used to sing or play on a toy piano. A note that was safety. He looked from the faded photo, the joyful girl, the adoring cat, to the creature sitting beside him now. Ragged, thin, dust-streaked. Her green eyes, identical to the eyes in the photo, were fixed on the image. Not on the girl, but on her own younger self. A low sound escaped her, not a hum, not a meow. Puffed, broken, almost inaudible whimper. A sound of profound, immeasurable dust. The dam inside Ben finally burst. Not in anger, not in frustration. In a wave of shared grief so vast, so deep, it tore through him like a physical force. He saw Lily's face superimposed on the little girl in the photo. He saw Ash's loss mirroring his own. The heavy stone in his chest shattered, and the tears came. Hot, silent, uncontrollable. Tears for the little girl who lost her cat. Tears for the cat who lost her girl. Tears for Lily, who he couldn't hold. Tears for Sarah, for the life they'd broken. Tears for the years of silence, the dust on the piano, the hollow ache of his empty apartment. He didn't sob. He sat there, on the cold kitchen floor, the faded photo trembling in his hand, tears streaming down his face, dripping onto the dusty linoleum. The silent, raw release of months, maybe years, of held-back pain. Ash moved. Not away. Closer. Slowly, she crept forward through the plaster dust. She didn't look at the photo again. She looked at him, at the tears on his face. She hesitated. With infinite gentleness, She stretched out her neck and nudged his dusty, tear-wet hand with the top of her head. Just once. A soft, deliberate pressure. Then she settled down, right beside his knee, her body pressed lightly against his leg. Not purring, just present. A warm, solid, ragged weight against him. A silent witness. A fellow traveler in grief. Her green eyes, reflecting the weak light, held us, filled with an understanding that went beyond words, beyond species. She knew loss. She knew the silence after love. She knew the echo. Ben lowered his head, his forehead resting gently on the top of Ash's dusty head. He closed his eyes. The radiator clanged, a final, distant protest, then fell silent. In the sudden, profound quiet, broken only by his own hitching breath and the soft sound of Ash's breathing beside him, Ben felt something shift. Not fixed, not healed, but shared. The crushing weight wasn't gone, but it was no longer his alone to carry. The silent apartment wasn't just empty, it held this small, warm creature, this survivor, this mirror to his own shattered heart. He breathed in the scent of dust, old plaster, and Ash's faint, musky fur. And then, soft as a sigh, barely audible, he felt it more than heard it. A vibration against his knee. Resonant. Steady. The low F. Her note. Their note. Humming from the depths of her small chest. Not in response to a piano. Not out of curiosity. A hum of shared sorrow. A hum of fragile, enduring connection. A sound that said, I am here. I know. I remember too. Ben didn't lift his head. He just let the tears fall, and the pure, quiet hum of the ash-gray cat, the cat who had once been loved by a little girl with dark curls, wash over him, a single resonant note of understanding in the vast, echoing silence. The breaking point wasn't an end. It was a raw, open, painful beginning. The wall was open. The memory was free. And in the dust and the tears, two broken creatures leaned against each other, finding a new kind of music in the ruins. Ben didn't sleep that night. He sat on the cold kitchen floor, Ash a warm, solid weight pressed against his leg, the small wooden box open between them. The faded Polaroid lay beside it, the little girl's gap-toothed smile a ghost in the dim light from the hallway. The radiator, perhaps exhausted by its tantrum, remained silent. The only sounds were Ash's soft, steady breathing, the faint hum that occasionally vibrated deep in her chest, not triggered by any note now, just a low, comforting thrum, and Ben's own ragged sighs as the aftershocks of his tears subsided. He touched the tarnished bell. It didn't ring. It felt cold, heavy with time. He traced the notch on Ash's ear, identical to the one on the kitten in the picture. She didn't flinch. She leaned slightly into his touch, her eyes half closed, watching the photograph. Not with the frantic intensity of before, but with a profound, weary sadness. Ben understood. He picked up the picture, held it where they both could see it. "That was you," he whispered, his voice hoarse. And that was her. He didn't know the little girl's name. He didn't need to. Her identity was etched in Ash's eyes, in the lines of loss on her ragged face. "You loved her, didn't you?" Ash blinked slowly, a silent affirmation that resonated deeper than any meow. A fresh wave of grief, for Ash this time, tightened Ben's throat. How long had she been alone? How had she survived? The frantic scratching, the terror of the deep clang, it all made a terrible, heartbreaking sense. This wall, this apartment, perhaps even this building, held the echoes of her lost life. She'd been trying to reach back, to the memory, to the scent, to the love sealed away. He didn't put the box back behind the wall. That felt like another betrayal. Instead, he carefully rewrapped the bell and the photograph, placed the bundle back in the wooden box, and carried it, like a sacred relic, into the living room. He set it on the dusty lid of the piano. Not hidden, not forgotten. On it, Ash followed, her movements less like a ghost now, more deliberate, purposeful. She watched him place the box, then jumped lightly onto the piano bench, settling herself beside it, her green eyes fixed on its simple shape. She didn't try to open it. She just kept watch. The next morning, routine resumed, but everything was different. Ben refilled Ash's food and water bowls. She emerged from the living room, not the kitchen shadows, and ate with her usual delicate precision, but her posture was looser. Less coiled tension. Afterwards, instead of retreating, she walked slowly to the patch of weak winter sun near the window, stretched and curled up. Not facing the wall, but facing the room, facing him. Ben made coffee, the familiar ritual grounding him. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with the soft rhythm of Ash's breathing, the quiet weight of the box on the piano, the lingering scent of plaster dust and shared tears. The heavy stone in his chest was still there, but it felt porous now. Lighter. Not gone, but shared. He wasn't carrying it alone. He looked at the piano. The dust mote still danced in the light falling across its closed lid. But the instrument no longer felt like a tombstone. It felt waiting. He walked over. Ash lifted her head from her sunspot, watching him. Not with the intense curiosity of before the wall, but with a quiet, knowing attention. Ben didn't sit. He just placed a hand on the cool, smooth wood. He looked at the small box resting there, then at Ash, her eyes reflecting the gray light. "Thank you," he murmured, the words thick. "For finding him. For trusting him enough to show her terror. For letting him share her grief. For the impossible hum that had first cracked his own silence." She blinked slowly, deliberately, then rested her head back on her paws, closing her eyes. Acceptance. Life in the small apartment began to reshape itself around this new understanding. Ash stopped hiding behind the refrigerator entirely. Her sanctuary became the sunspot, the piano bench, and sometimes, tentatively, the worn armchair near Ben's reading lamp. She didn't become a lap cat. She maintained her space, her dignity. But the wariness in her eyes softened into watchfulness. Trust, hard-won and precious. Ben talked to her, not just filling the silence, but sharing fragments of his own past. Not the raw pain of Lily and Sarah, not yet, but smaller memories. The smell of his grandmother's kitchen. The feel of the ocean wind on a childhood holiday. The way his father used to whistle while fixing things. Ash listened, her ears twitching, sometimes offering a slow blink, sometimes just the soft vibration of her hum, seemingly random now, a low F resonating in her chest like a contented sigh. He started playing the piano again. Not scales, not fragments. Simple, quiet melodies, folk songs, lullabies. He avoided pieces heavy with association, steering clear of fur-release. He played softly, letting the notes fill the space gently, like sunlight. Then as she listened, she didn't always come close. Sometimes she stayed in her sunspot, eyes closed, her breathing syncing with the rhythm. Sometimes she sat on the bench beside the wooden box, a silent guardian. But when he played, especially when he lingered on the low F, she would often, not always, but often, offer her hum in return. Not always matching the note perfectly anymore. Sometimes drifting slightly, but always resonant. Always present. It wasn't a performance. It was a conversation. A shared language of sound and memory. The radiator still clanged sometimes. Deep, jarring. Ash still reacted. A flinch. A low growl rumbling in her chest. But she no longer panicked. She no longer tried to flee or attack the wall. She would look towards the sound, her body tense for a moment. Then her gaze would often shift, seeking Ben. He'd meet her eyes, nod slightly, sometimes murmur, "It's okay, Ash. Just the pipes." And she would relax, incrementally, the tension easing from her thin shoulders. The terror was still there, the deep memory of loss and fear, but it was no longer all-consuming. It was witnessed, acknowledged, and that, somehow, made it bearable. For both of them, Ben found himself making small choices, changes rooted in this shared existence. He bought a soft, plush bed and placed it near the radiator. Not on it, but close enough for warmth. Ash ignored it for days. Then one particularly cold evening, she tentatively stepped into it, turned a careful circle, and settled down. Ben felt a ridiculous swell of victory. He started buying higher quality cat food, noticing how her coat, while still ragged and bearing the scars of her past, began to lose its dusty dullness, gaining a faint sheen. The notch on her ear seemed less like a wound, more like a badge of survival. He looked at Lily's picture on his phone one evening, something he hadn't been able to do without crushing pain. The ache was still there, a hollow space in his heart. But looking at her bright smile, he didn't just feel loss. He felt gratitude for the time he'd had. He realized, watching Ash sleep peacefully in her new bed, that grief wasn't a stone you eventually put down. It was a companion you learned to walk alongside. It changed shape. It softened at the edges. It didn't vanish, but it stopped blocking out all the light. One afternoon, weeks after the wall, Ben sat at the piano. The small wooden box sat beside him. Ash was curled on the bench, a warm, soft weight against his thigh, her chin resting near the box. The weak winter sun streamed through the window, catching the dust motes in a golden dance. He looked at Ash, her eyes closed, her breathing deep and even. He looked at the box, the silent bell, the memory of the little girl's smile. He thought of Lily. He thought of Sarah. He thought of the long, silent months in this apartment before a small, ash-gray ghost emerged from behind a refrigerator. His fingers found the keys. Not a practiced piece. Not even a melody he knew. He began to play, softly, tentatively. Notes that felt like the gray light outside, like the warmth of the cat against his leg, like the quiet ache and the fragile peace. He played a sequence, simple, repetitive, gentle. And then, almost without thinking, he played the low F. He held it, letting the pure note resonate in the quiet room. Against his thigh, he felt it. The deep vibration. The familiar hum. Ash didn't open her eyes. She didn't move her head. The hum simply rose from her sleeping form, a seamless blend with the piano's note, a harmony born of shared history, shared loss, and the quiet, persistent beat of life moving forward. Ben kept playing, weaving the low F into his simple, improvised song. Ash's hum continued, a soft counterpoint, a grounding presence. The radiator remained silent. The late afternoon light gilded the dust motes, the worn rug, the ash-gray fur of the cat asleep against him, her chest vibrating with the memory of love and the quiet song of survival. Ben looked out the window at the skeletal trees against the gray sky, the same view he'd stared at in numb silence for months. It wasn't beautiful, but it was real. It was now. He played, and beside him, the cat who had once been lost, and the man who had been broken, created a fragile, imperfect, deeply human music together. Not chasing the past, not fearing the future, simply existing. In the quiet aftermath, the choice wasn't about moving on. It was about learning how to stay, how to breathe, how to find the melody in the ruins. And as the last notes faded, leaving only the soft hum against his leg and the gentle hiss of the now companionable radiator, Ben realized the silence wasn't something to fear anymore. It was the space where their shared song lived. The rhythm of their shared life deepened, becoming as natural as breathing. Ash's bed stayed permanently near the radiator, now a source of warmth rather than terror. She'd curl there, a compact ball of ash-gray fur, the slow rise and fall of her sides a comforting metronome in Ben's quiet apartment. The small wooden box remained on the piano lid, a silent sentinel. Ben didn't open it often, but its presence was a grounding point, a shared history acknowledged. Sometimes, Ash would jump up, sit beside it, and just gaze. Not with the anguished intensity of that first night, but with a quiet contemplation, a softness in her green eyes. Ben understood. It wasn't a shrine to pain, but a touchstone to a love that once was, a reminder that such depth existed, even if it ended in loss. The piano playing became their daily communion. Ben no longer avoided the complex pieces, the ones threaded with memories. He played Chopin nocturnes, their melancholic beauty resonating with the quiet ache they both carried. He played Bach, the intricate patterns a comforting order in the chaos of feeling. Then she listened, sometimes from her bed, sometimes from the floor near his feet, sometimes, increasingly, perched on the sturdy bookshelf beside the piano, her favorite vantage point. Her humming wasn't confined to the low F anymore. It had evolved. She'd hum along to certain phrases, a soft, resonant drone that seemed to weave itself into the music, not perfectly pitched, but harmoniously, intuitively. It wasn't mimicry. It was accompaniment. A wordless conversation spun from vibrations and shared silence. Ben learned to anticipate it, to leave space in the music for her quiet voice. A low, sustained chord, and there it would be, her hum rising to meet it, filling the spaces between the notes with a warmth no single instrument could achieve. He started calling it their duet for piano and resilient feline. It made him smile, a genuine, quiet smile that felt unfamiliar on his face. The heavy stone of grief hadn't vanished, but it had transformed. It was now a part of the landscape, weathered, familiar, with moss growing in its cracks. Moss named Ash, named music, named the fragile piece they'd built. One damp April afternoon, the city outside greening at the edges, Ben was tidying the living room. He picked up the small wooden box, intending to dust beneath it. As he lifted it, something shifted inside. Not the photograph or the bell, something else. A faint, almost imperceptible rustle. He frowned. He'd handled the box countless times, rewrapped the contents carefully after that first night. This sound was new, delicate, like dry leaves or tissue paper. Curious, he sat on the piano bench, Ash observing him from her bookshelf perch, head tilted. He opened the box. The faded cloth bundle lay there, the shape of the bell and the photograph familiar beneath the folds. He carefully lifted the bundle out, and there, nestled in the very bottom corner of the small box, previously hidden beneath the cloth and pressed flat against the wood, was an envelope. Very thin. Yellowed with age, the paper brittle. It must have been tucked away, forgotten, for decades. Ben's breath caught. Ash jumped down from the bookshelf, landing silently beside him, her green eyes fixed on the envelope. She didn't seem alarmed, just intensely interested. Her tail twitched once, slowly. With trembling fingers, mindful of the fragile paper, Ben lifted the envelope out. It wasn't sealed. There was no writing on the front. It felt almost weightless. He slid out the single sheet of paper folded inside. It wasn't a letter. It was a child's drawing, rendered in faded crayon. Bold, wobbly lines. The paper was thin, cheap, the kind from a school notebook. He unfolded it, smoothing the creases gently. The drawing showed a house. Simple, square, with a triangle roof and a rectangle door. Stick figures stood beside it. A taller one, with yellow scribbled hair, presumably a parent, and a smaller one, with wild, dark scribbles for hair, unmistakably the little girl from the photograph. She was holding something. Not a stick figure cat, but a careful, loving drawing of a small, gray cat. The artist had taken time. The shape of the body, the curve of the tail, and, clearly, deliberately, a tiny notch drawn on one ear. Beside the cat, hovering near its mouth, the child had drawn a series of wobbly, concentric circles, like sound waves. And beside those circles, written in large, uneven, painstakingly formed capital letters, was a single word, Sung. Below the house, the little girl had written her name. Emily. Ben stared. Emily. The little girl had a name. Emily. And she'd drawn her ash, and declared her song. Her song. The hum. The low F. The sound that had drawn Ben out of his own silence. The sound Ash had carried through years of loneliness and fear. It was Emily's song. A sound she associated with her beloved cat. A lullaby? A nonsense tune? A simple note she'd sing while holding her? The concentric circles vibrated off the page, a child's perfect depiction of pure, joyful sound. Tears welled, not the hot, painful tears of the night they broke the wall, but quiet, tender tears. This wasn't just a drawing. It was a message. A whisper across decades. A child's declaration of love for her cat, captured in wobbly crayon and a single, shouted word, Sung. It was the final piece of the puzzle, the confirmation of what he'd felt in his bones. Ash's hum wasn't a trick, or a fluke, or a desperate survival mechanism. It was an echo of Emily's love. A piece of her little girl, carried inside her, a living memory vibrating in her chest. He looked at Ash. She was gazing at the drawing, her nose almost touching the paper. She sniffed it delicately. Incredible. She nudged the edge of the paper with her head, a gentle push, as if acknowledging it. Then she looked up at Ben and blinked slowly. That deep, deliberate blink. A cat's kiss. For him. For Emily. For the song. Ben carefully placed the drawing on the piano lid, beside the small wooden box, the bell, and the faded photograph. Emily's joyful declaration sat beside the image of her younger self holding Ash, and the silent bell. A triptych of love and loss. He touched the crayoned word, Sung. The paper felt fragile, precious. That evening, as the first stars pricked through the city haze, Ben sat at the piano. Ash settled beside him on the bench, a warm line against his thigh. He didn't play Chopin or Bach. He looked at the child's drawing, the wobbly sound waves, the word, Sung, shouting its joy from the page. He thought of Emily, of her gap-toothed smile, of the pure love she'd felt for this small creature beside him. His fingers found the keys. He played a single note. The low F, Emily's note. Ash's note. Their note. He held it, letting it resonate in the quiet room. Against his thigh, the familiar vibration began. Ash's hum, deep, resonant, steady. The echo of a child's love, answering across time. Ben closed his eyes. He didn't play a melody. He played sound. Simple chords, gentle progressions, creating a space, a cradle, for the note Emily had declared. He played softly, weaving harmonies around the sustained low F and Ash's answering hum. It wasn't complex music. It was elemental. A lullaby for Emily. A tribute to the love she'd given, a love that had somehow, impossibly, found its way to him through this ash-gray cat. He played, and Ash hummed, and the child's crayoned song seemed to glow in the dim light. The bell, silent, sat beside the drawing. Ben felt a profound sense of peace, not the absence of sadness, but its integration. Emily was gone from Ash's life. Lily was gone from his daily life. Beloved, Ben realized, looking at Ash whose eyes were closed in contentment as she hummed, love wasn't bound by time or presence. It was a vibration, an echo, a frequency that could travel through walls, through years, through silence, carried by a small creature with a notched ear and a song in her soul. Emily's love had sustained Ash through her darkest years. And now, Ash, carrying that echo, had offered it to Ben, a lifeline when he was drowning. The final gift wasn't the drawing itself. It was the understanding it brought. Ash hadn't just healed him by needing him. She'd healed him by letting him witness the enduring power of the love she carried. She'd shown him that grief wasn't the end of love, but a testament to its depth. That even in the ruins, songs could be found. Songs carried, remembered, and shared. The melody wasn't just in the air when Ash hummed. It was in the resilience of her spirit, in the quiet trust she'd learned to offer again, in the way she'd brought Ben back to his own music, and shown him that his heart, though scarred, could still resonate with beauty and with love. The song was Ash herself, living, breathing, humming testament to the fact that love, once given, never truly disappears. It simply changes its key and finds a new instrument through which to be heard. As the last notes of their shared lullaby faded, leaving only the soft hum vibrating against his leg and the quiet presence of Emily's joyful declaration on the piano lid. Benut. Ash hadn't just brought him back from silence. She'd shown him that the most profound songs are often the ones carried silently within, waiting for the right moment, the right listener, to be heard. Summer came, thick and golden, spilling through the windows of Ben's apartment. The radiator sat silent, its clanging forgotten. The small wooden box still lived on the piano lid, but now with Emily's drawing beside it, the crayoned song, framed in a simple wooden border Ben had made himself. It wasn't hidden anymore. It was honored. Ash had grown into her name. No longer a ghost, no longer a shadow. She was a presence. Her fur, once dull and matted, now carried a soft sheen, the gray like polished stone. The notch in her ear no longer looked like a wound. It looked like history, like survival. She still hummed. Not just the low F anymore, but other notes, sometimes matching Ben's melodies, sometimes drifting into harmonies of her own. It wasn't perfect. It was alive. Ben played more these days. Not just for himself, not just for Ash, but for Emily too. For the little girl who had loved this cat so fiercely that her song had lingered in Ash's bones for years. He played lullabies, ones he'd once sung to Lily. He played folk tunes, the kind his grandmother had hummed while baking. And sometimes, when the evening light turned the room amber, he played nothing at all. Just sat with his fingers resting on the keys, listening to the quiet rhythm of Ash's breathing beside him. The piano was no longer a monument to his grief. It was a bridge. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the city exhaled into twilight, Ben sat at the piano, Ash curled beside him. He didn't play right away. He just looked at her, the way her paws twitched slightly in sleep, the way her whiskers trembled with each breath. He thought about the journey that had brought them here, the silence, the broken wall, the photograph, the drawing, the hum that had first cracked his heart open. His fingers found the keys. He didn't play a song he knew. He played theirs, the one they'd built together. A slow, meandering melody, simple but deep, with pauses left for Ash's hum. And as if sensing the invitation, she stirred, lifted her head, blinked at him with those knowing green eyes. And then, softly, effortlessly, she joined in. Not just one note this time. A shifting, living sound, rising and falling with the music. Not perfect, not trained, but true. A song carried across years, from a little girl's arms to this moment. This quiet, golden moment where a man and a cat sat at a piano, weaving their shared history into something beautiful. Ben didn't cry. He smiled. A real smile. The kind that starts deep inside and rises like dawn. This was the lesson Ash had taught him. That love doesn't vanish when people leave. That grief isn't the absence of love, it's the proof of it. That even in the deepest silence, songs can still be found, carried in the most unexpected places. In a child's drawing, in a tarnished bell, in the quiet hum of an ash-gray cat who had once been lost, and then, against all odds, found her way home. The music faded. The last note lingered in the air, trembling like a held breath. Ash sighed, resting her chin on her paws, her eyes slipping closed again. Ben let his hands rest on the keys, feeling the warmth of the wood, the weight of the moment. Outside, the city hummed, cars, voices, life moving forward. But here, in this small apartment, there was only this. A man, a cat, and the quiet understanding that some bonds are written in something deeper than words. In notes, in memories, in love that echoes. And that's where we'll leave them, not with an ending, but with the quiet certainty that their song plays on. If this story touched your heart, don't let it end here. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss our daily tales of love, loss, and the unexpected ways we heal. Tell us in the comments, have you ever met an animal who changed your life? Where in the world are you listening from? And most importantly, never stop listening for the songs hidden in the silence. Until next time.